Good evening. Apologies for it being past our 6 o'clock expected start time. But with that being noted, my name is Bob Green. I'm the chairperson for the Board of... Thank you. My name is Bob Green. I'm the chairperson for the Zoning Board of Appeals here in the town of North Reading. Just to be clear, today is November 19th. We're meeting with regard to the application for development at 20 Elm Street, North Reading, Massachusetts. For purposes of the record, myself, Bob Green, Brendan Riley, Michelle Bodian, the primary voting members of the board are here, as is Matt Martin. With that, we have established quorum, and with that, I'd like to begin tonight's meeting. To begin with that, there were minutes that were generated from our last public hearing here at North Reading High, September 11th, and the minutes were composed. I've had a chance to review them and found them to be a fair and representative depiction of what occurred at the meeting. The same minutes have been divided to the developer council in this matter, and by agreement were deemed to be that, again, representative of the hearing that night. With that, I'd like to bring a motion to enter the minutes as put forth. Do I get a second? Thank you, Michelle. All in favor of entry of the minutes from the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting from September 11th with regard to 20 Elm Street?
Aye.
Brendan Riley, aye.
Bob Green, aye. Thank you. Minutes are entered.
October.
In addition, on October 23rd, tonight's meeting that was scheduled to occur that evening was continued until, again, tonight, November 19th. And we did establish quorum in order to effect that continuation. For that purposes, the members present that evening for the continuation, and again, just for the record, nothing else happened on that night other than the continuation of tonight's to tonight of the meeting. I'd like to bring a motion to enter the minutes reciting that continuation.
Second.
Thank you, Michelle. The voting members, the members that evening were myself, Bob Green, Brendan Riley, and Matt Martin. We're all assembled tonight. With that, I'd like to kind of have a vote with regard to entering the minutes dictating that continuation, again, October 23rd, 2025.
Brendan Riley, aye. Matt Martin, aye.
Bob Green, aye. Thank you. And so that is noted for the record. So that brings us to this evening. And to avoid any confusion or problems for going forward, we're going to calendar our next meeting with regard to 20 Elm. We have made a reservation to use this room, and that date for the record will be Thursday, December 11th at 6 p.m. Board members Michelle Bodian and Brendan Riley and myself are all available for that meeting. And just to clarify for those that may not understand it, while the board consists of 6 members, 3 associates and 3 primary, this matter will be attended to by, in this case, myself, Michelle, and Brendan for purposes of the final entry of decision and or anything attendant to that. So it's required that we attend, each of us respectively, attend each meeting and public hearing for this purpose. So to coordinate that calendar, it requires specifically myself, Michelle, and Brendan to attend. Council, is that date good, December 11th, 6 p.m.?
Yes, that works for the applicant.
Thank you. Noting that it'll be in this room, Digital Learning Lab, North Reading High School. Thank you. And the last matter of calendaring. So we have continued this matter. We just want to clarify, if you might, for the just for our purposes, where we sit with regard to the close of the public hearing. So, Kathy, if you might, we started.
We stamped the plans in August 27th.
And the first meeting was September 11th. Then there was an agreed to the 6-month public hearing calendar was moved back 30 days. So we're now sitting, you believe, at February 11th for the conclusion.
February 27th.
Thank you. February 27th for the conclusion of the public hearing. And that's the calendar, correct? 6 months.
Right.
Okay. So, are we still looking at February? I mean, there's going to be some conversation about other changes or revisions forthcoming. Should we deal with the calendar? Is it to be dealt with as it occurs, or should we just continue to hold to that February date? I'm open to conversation on this.
What topics do you have left to discuss? Traffic, conservation? Is there anything on
Board?
Traffic conservation.
So we'll have December, January, and then in February. So 3 further hearing dates.
Unless we move to 2 months on top of our normal ZBA, I don't see how we're fitting it all in without another extension.
And that's what, so, thoughts?
At this point, I don't think we need to start addressing an extension. I believe it's premature. We'll be responding to the civil peer review comments tonight. December 11th will address traffic and public safety access issues. And then I believe you had a tentative date for a January meeting, at which point we address architecture. I believe that's all the items you raised. I heard mention of conservation, but the project is subject to review under the Wetlands Protection Act by the Conservation Commission. That remains ongoing. So I'm not entirely clear what you would like for a presentation with respect to that, but we can certainly figure out what the board wants to address within that, and have our wetlands consultant here at the meeting if you'd like. But it seems like we have enough meetings to address all of that so far.
Okay, we just, again, because we try to coordinate the location, it's just it's an interesting question that the further heads up we can give them, the better, and we very likely, Kathy, will just give them dates to try to put reservation in early, whether it's needed or not. So for the board, do we have a January date?
January 4th? No, January 20th.
You're 22nd, what you sent out the email.
22nd?
Yeah, no, but
Okay.
I'm just going by the email.
No, that's fine, and that's just the housekeeping. I try my best not to be looking at my phone when I'm in the middle of a meeting, because it's just old school for me.
So all
But
we have is February.
February, that still needs to be dated, and we should reach out to her this week before the holiday especially. Okay, thank you.
Well, I Would
Okay.
also suggest that even at the end of the 180 days, the board does have additional time to deliberate, so it's certainly worth trying to get room reservations further out into February, March, if you feel like that's going to be an issue.
Noted, and thank you. All right, so let's bring it to tonight's agenda. Tonight we had set aside for effectively for a large description, engineering matters attendant to the development. In this ongoing application, a peer review study was produced by a third party, and in this case, that party was the firm of GM2. We have with us tonight Eric Carlson. He's a chief engineer with the firm, and obviously has a background and an understanding of the issues that were brought into by again GM2 in this matter. And for that purpose, I'm going to turn the microphone and the dais over to Mr. Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening. Again, my name is Eric Carlson. I'm Chief Engineer with GM2's Massachusetts operations. And just so you're aware, GM2 has been providing peer review services to the town of North Reading for some years now. And we are a full service firm. We have disciplines that range from surveying, traffic engineering, wetland science, structural engineering, hydraulics, geotechnical engineering. So any question that I may not be able to answer tonight, I can certainly bring back to my office and provide follow-up answers. So my understanding is that at this point, I will work my way through the peer reviews in some detail that we have provided to date. Give you a sense of what we were looking at, some of the comments that we generated. Then I believe the applicant's team will have an opportunity to make their presentation, and I think within that presentation they'll begin to respond to some of the comments that we had made previously. This is a back and forth process, and it will continue beyond this evening. We have not received their responses to our initial comments, and I know they're probably still developing those, and they will provide those to us. And we will review them, and we may ask more questions, or we may be satisfied that the answers we were given. So our peer review on this project began, I'm going to say in October, is when we were pulled into it. And we initially provided peer review to the Conservation Commission in reviewing the notice of intent that was filed. Those comments were issued a week or two ago, and I believe there was a hearing last night where they may have been discussed. And again, that's an ongoing process. Tonight we're talking about, I guess the main topic is on general civil engineering and stormwater management associated with the project. And we prepared a peer review, submitted that for review, and as I mentioned, we're anticipating response to our comments. We've also just completed a peer review of the traffic analysis for the project, and that will probably be discussed in some detail at the next meeting, is my understanding. So that's been our involvement to date, and so I'll just dive into our site civil peer review. And I'll say this, I'm a professional engineer. I've been on both sides of the fence my entire career. I'm about 40 years into this. But I don't know everything, okay? I stay within my lanes. I've been involved in a lot of different projects. So there may be questions that come to me that I just won't have the answer, but I'll get the answers. So I want to let you know that. So our peer review, which I believe is made public, is dated November 6th. And has anybody found it on the town's website? Okay. So I can go through it in as much detail as you'd like. A lot of it's technical. Some of it I don't even understand, but let me just start and we'll see where it goes. So I prefaced the peer review that the fact that we had just received the traffic report. And one of the first things we noted in the traffic report was the proposed entrance to the site had been modified, okay? And so we did not review that revised entrance, okay? That is yet to be submitted. I believe the civil plans are being updated by the applicant, and so there'll be some follow-up on that in particular. But we point that out right up front. So that's ongoing. Then we had a couple comments. The access route, the new access route is coming through the Teresa's parking lot. And so we had some comments and, okay, what are the arrangements that you're making with Teresa's? Is there going to be an easement? What are the impacts to the existing parking? These were just upfront, first blush comments that we'll probably get into a little deeper. Then we said, regardless of the proposed access route, we feel that there should be attention given to Route 62 Elm Street pedestrian access to Elm Street, across Elm Street. There is currently some, I would say, vintage pedestrian accommodations on Elm Street, and there are some outdated, I'd say they're probably not compliant, existing ADA ramp, they're probably not ADA compliant. So our recommendation is the applicant should look and see if they can make some improvements at this time that would benefit the folks in the area and in this proposed development. We also had a question about intersection site distance. It's very important for every project, how the traffic can view oncoming traffic, traffic entering, exiting this site, approaching the site. Okay, so I think they're working on that. Now that's going to change. I believe there was some site distance limitations given the original access point, and they may be improved. We haven't studied it yet, but they may be improved given the relocated access point. Then we went through the site development plans. I don't remember how many sheets there were in the set, 30 some sheets. We went through each plan. They range from comments on the cover sheet through the existing conditions plans, really everything. And we would just point out things that we thought should be addressed, even if it was a misspelling on the plan. We had comments pointing that out. We went through the layout and materials plan, grading and drainage plan, snow storage plan, fire truck turning. They provided turning templates of the town's fire truck, specifically, through the site. And so we looked at those, and I think our comment was it looks like it's gonna work, and you ought to have the fire department review it as well. On the lighting plan, we had a couple of comments. Details, they have probably 30 details associated with the construction of the project, and we made a few comments. Some of the details stepped on each other, and we thought they ought to sort them out. There may have been one or two details we felt they should add to the plan set. Then we went through the stormwater report, and stormwater report, I think, is about 300 pages from cover to cover, and we went through it in detail and generated a number of comments. But I would say, in general, we agreed with their approach to how they were going to handle the stormwater. There may have been some technical questions that we had regarding the design of it. There are storms that are used as the basis of the analysis, and we were suggesting that they use a current NOAA rainfall intensity data. And we reviewed their narrative and made some suggestions on how to improve the narrative. We noted that there are points of discharge that appear to be increased or decreased, and within a certain range that's allowable. And I think they're working to address that comment there. There were some comments on the proposed operation and maintenance plan, okay, which would become part of the site package that would live on with the property, okay, and deals with a number of things, including snow storage and management, and how to maintain the drainage system, and so on. We had a couple questions about some erosion control, and I think that may have been picked up in the conservation peer review as well, that we thought there was one or two locations that they needed to modify their erosion control. Erosion control, hay bales, silt fence, silt socks, it's to protect any silt from the site from migrating off-site. Okay, it's very important, and it'll be part of all the approvals. Then we reviewed the project against Mass DEP stormwater standards. They have 10 standards that need to be met, and I believe we determined that they've met all 10 standards. Then we reviewed the proposed water system. Okay, this would be the town water coming into the project that would then provide domestic and fire service. And one comment we had was that they should explore redundant water system because their site is currently being served by one main off of Elm Street, and something happened to that main at that location, at least for the first few hundred feet. Okay, the entire site would be out of water. We noted that they were providing there to be adequate fire hydrants across the site, but again, that's something that the fire department should review and for their own preferences and suggest relocations if necessary. Then they have a proposed sewer septic system. Okay, we did not review that. That is reviewed under the Board of Health. Okay, and that also maybe in this case goes to the DEP. for their review. So we did not provide really any details on that. There is a proposed utility building on the site. We're wondering, what's in it. We could see some services entering it and some drainage exiting that, and so we were just seeking additional information on that building. With regard to traffic, again, we just mentioned that we understand that at the time of this review, that review was still ongoing. And then we had a few other comments, and it's really housekeeping on projects like this. There are a lot of features on the site because it's a developed site. Okay, so there's things like sheds and tennis courts and the golf driving range and a number of other features that we weren't certain of the disposition of every one of them. And I believe we suggested that a demolition plan that just focuses on those features would help. Some of those features are going to remain. Others are going to be removed. There is a perimeter retaining wall that's proposed around most of the site. And I think in just one instance, it's retaining land beyond the site. Everywhere else, it's retaining the site, okay, from below. It's holding the site up. And it ranges in height from 4.5 feet to 24 feet throughout. And so one comment we had, it wasn't clear on the plans, it could have been their intent really all along, was to provide a safety fence at the top of the wall, right at the top of the wall, as opposed to back from the wall some distance. That way someone can't really sneak in behind. And so that's an important safety feature that we're hoping can be included in the project. So in a nutshell, that was the extent of the review, and we can get into further details. I think at this time, the applicant's team will present, and then there'll probably be time for questions. And I'm not running the meeting, but my suggestion would be that the questions be steered to whoever's appropriate to answer. Thank you.
Mr. Carlson, if you'd like.
So GM2 finishes their review. You submitted those notes, concerns, thoughts, for lack of a better way of phrasing it, to the developer, and they've had them, or is this just they got the same report that was provided to the town? So was there any?
They received the same report provided through the town.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's been no direct interaction between your firm and the developer?
There has not.
Okay, thank you. Just for the record, be sure to note your name, title, and
Yep.
thank you.
Great. Thank you, Eric. For the record, name is Nick Delacava, professional engineer with Allen & Major Associates. We're the site civils for the project. We have a pretty short presentation for you tonight to go over some of the civil aspects of the design and just bring you up to speed of kind of what we've been working on for the last couple months. We last met on September 11th, where we presented on the emergency access throughout the site. That's currently under review with the fire department. We also highlighted the landscape and screening improvements that were being proposed, how snow storage was going to be managed throughout the property, and then a high-level overview of the existing and proposed watersheds and how the stormwater is being managed. Since that meeting, we've been working closely with the Conservation Commission, as well as the peer review consultant, as part of the notice of intent filing. On September 22nd, we received a letter from the DEP as it related to that notice of intent in the stormwater management system that was proposed. On October 7th, we had our first public hearing with the Conservation Commission. And then shortly after that, on October 20th, A&M provided a response memo back to DEP with revised plans and reports that was ultimately also submitted to GM2 for their first peer review, which was issued on November 3rd. Again, that was for the notice of intent filing with the Conservation Commission. It had a lot of stormwater and Wetlands Protection Act requirements that were highlighted in that memo. We then had our second public hearing with the Conservation Commission last night. I feel that it went very well. There was no major concerns. We went over the GM2 peer review memo, as well as some of the impacts related to work within those resource buffers. And we fully anticipate closing out that process in the near future. Again, there were no major concerns by the commission. And then on November 6th, GM2 issued their civil peer review as part of this zoning board of appeals process. The majority of those comments, Eric just went over most of them. I think a lot of them were more technical housekeeping type items. There were a few comments that did impact our proposed design, which I'll share with you tonight. And we're currently working on finalizing the plans, drainage report, and we will be providing an updated formal peer review response memo, hopefully shortly next week. And the applicant did issue an FAQ that was submitted to the ZBA last Thursday on November 13th that kind of highlighted some of the public comments that we received to date and then our responses to each of those. And I believe that's posted on the website. It shows a comparison between what we originally presented on back in September and what we're currently proposing today. The original design included an exclusive site driveway that was routed due north to Elm Street. It would require a second curb cut. It was determined that there were limitations to the stopping site distance, as Eric kind of described. There's requirements that you need to meet in order to have clear sight lines in order to stop your vehicle from any other vehicles trying to enter or exit onto Elm Street. So we determined that it would be necessary to route the driveway through the existing parking lot at Teresa's and utilize that existing entrance where we believe there is adequate stopping site distance, and that was all included in the traffic report that we submitted. This access will require some easements for both our property and the existing property, which we fully intend on providing. All of the parking requirements for that lot will be maintained and meet the zoning requirements for that use. The majority of the site plan remains unchanged. It's really the most significant was relocating the entrance, and then we did relocate the dog park. There was a dog park previously proposed just west of Building B. We've relocated that to the south of Building B next to the compactor. We've also added walls in that area. In coordination with the Conservation Commission, it was determined that it would be a benefit to the resource areas to pull back a lot of the grading within that 200-foot riverfront area. So in order to do that, we needed to build these walls. And this is the last slide. This is our current stormwater management design. Again, this is going to be resubmitted to Eric in his office early next week. It remains very similar to what GM2 reviewed as part of their first peer review memo. The most notable change came from a comment related to the rainfall data that we were using. They recommended that we use the current NOAA Atlas 14 rainfall data. They're slightly larger rain events, and that translated into slightly larger detention systems below the parking lots. So you can see here in these the blue lines and squares, those the larger squares. I don't know if you can see my cursor. Yeah, so this is detention system number 1. It includes 6.5 foot diameter corrugated metal pipes. It has approximately 19,000 cubic feet of storage. It handles runoff from the roof of Building A and the majority of the north half of the surface parking area. We then have a second detention system, number 2. It consists of 8 foot diameter corrugated metal pipes, providing approximately 22,000 cubic feet of storage. What these systems do is, when rain falls on the property, it will be collected in deep sump hooded catch basins surrounded through water quality units to provide enhanced treatment, sediment removal, separate the oils, and then it discharges into these detention systems. That's kind of where all the first flush goes. The systems are designed to have restrictive outlets, so it holds a lot of that stormwater back and slowly releases it downstream into this large underground infiltration system. This is they're storm tech chambers. They're plastic chambers. They're about 4 to 5 feet high. They're arches. They're surrounded by stone, and the system itself has approximately 28,000 cubic feet of storage. And it's been designed to provide the minimum recharge volume as well as the water quality volume. The systems working together reduce the peak rates off the site at all study points. Again, we went over this at the last meeting, but there's really 3 study points on this site. The northern wetland up closer to Elm Street. There's a southern wetland just south of Building B. And then there's a stream that runs up into the property. This stream feeds or handles runoff from the northern wetland as well as all of the existing site. That will remain unchanged. We're not touching any of the existing drainage infrastructure on the Teresa's property. And all of that ultimately sheet flows and discharges into the Ipswich River, which is our 4th study point. And so at each of those study points, we've shown a decrease in the peak rate of runoff. There is an increase in the volume of runoff towards the stream and ultimately the Ipswich River, and that was one of GM2's comments. Under the state stormwater standards, you're not required to reduce the volume. You are required to reduce the peak rates, or at least not increase them. And the local requirement does have some thresholds. They don't want to see you go more or less than 15% of what exists today. So there is a scenario during some of the larger storm events where we are increasing the volumes above that 15%. But again, we're reducing the rates in accordance with the state handbook. And by reducing that rate, it takes off the stress of that hydraulic stress on the watershed. It's just the volumes increase because it's a slower rate over a longer period of time, which it complies with the handbook, and we believe it's not an impact to the resource areas. And it has been reviewed with the Conservation Commission, where they've expressed no concerns on that matter. We did pull away the outlets. We had an outlet up discharging right at the existing head wall, where again that closed drainage system from the existing parking lot connects to. There was some concern from the commission as well as the peer review consultant that the disturbance within that resource area was not favorable. They want us to look at pulling that outlet away, which we were able to do as part of this redesign. We pulled back all outlets outside the resource areas. It's all outside the 12-foot no disturb buffers, which is a local requirement, and outside the 25-foot no disturb buffer, which is the state buffer. We have one outlet here at the edge of our retaining wall, and then a secondary outlet from the detention system number 2. Again, those will handle or at least convey stormwater during the larger rain events that starts to bypass these systems. As mentioned, Eric mentioned, the previous design that was reviewed, I think he would agree, it confirmed compliance with the 10 stormwater standards. Again, that the most important ones there are the peak rate attenuation, reducing those peak rates of runoff, water quality, making sure we're capturing that first flush of runoff and treating it, holding it on site, and then the groundwater recharge. And then just a couple last items here. As far as the utilities go, there have been no major updates to the utility plan from what we presented previously. We did receive a comment from the water department either today or yesterday afternoon that they would like us to loop the water and provide that redundancy for the proposed development. So what we'll be doing is running connecting to the main municipal line in Elm Street, running it through the property, and ultimately looking to connect it over into Lynn Street. And the town owns a small piece of property here where my cursor is, and we would be running it through there and then out into Lynn Street to again have that redundancy.
You don't want a piece of property,
And then the last major update that will be submitted is the demolition plan. We would agree it probably makes sense to have a demo plan now, just so you can review it. It's something we typically include later on in the process, but given some of the existing infrastructure that's out there, it's worth preparing. So that concludes the presentation for tonight. You know, we do look forward to continued coordination with Eric and his team, and we'll be submitting updated plans and drainage reports and a formal response memo to all the comments for both the notice of intent peer review memo as well as the civil peer review memo. So with that, thank you, and open it up for any questions.
Eric, since your presentation is in response to probably recommendations made by the firm, any comments at this time from you? Thank you.
I think my only comment is that this is a process, an ongoing process, and we look forward to receiving the detailed response to comments. What I've seen on the proposed revisions to the plan, again, we will review those in detail as well, and we'll provide additional comments as it moves forward. But haven't seen anything in the change, the proposed change. I think looping the water is a good thing. It'll improve water quality for the entire area, actually. Getting that water to move around through the system is always a good thing, so good luck with that.
Thank you. Before opening up to the public, I'm going to defer to the board and ask if any of the members tonight have any questions they want to address to either the applicant or to, in this case, GM2.
All right, yeah, I have a couple questions. So you mentioned the utility plan. Is that all right, I'm just gonna yell. Okay. Can you guys hear me? Alright. Okay, so my question is about the utility plan. The utility plan that you have in your details is the proposed utilities, correct?
That's correct.
Right. when we did a site walk with the Conservation Commission last weekend, and when we were walking around, we did notice like there's some existing utilities on site that you'll have to move. Like there's a irrigation to the golf course, for instance. I think my question is, are there any, I think in your drainage report, you mentioned like intercepting an electrical line on the driving range somewhere. Are there any utilities, existing utilities that you're gonna have to move or relocate that could impact folks here? And if so, like what the plan is for dealing with that? So for instance, if you have to move a water line that impacts somebody's well, or the golf course in particular, like what is the plan for moving those existing utilities?
Sure. Yeah. There's really only 2 utilities that we need to relocate. All the other utilities that are on the site service, the old use of the property. There's a water line. Let's see my cursor. So there's an easement that comes through here. Where there's a water line and an electric line that comes through the site. What we'll be doing is relocating each of those along the bottom edge of our retaining wall. And in doing so, to ensure that there's no interrupted use of those utilities, we would install the new utilities first, trench them, get them installed, get them ready to hook up. That way we can just disconnect the old ones, make the connection. There's going to be some downtime. But we understand that it's really only used for irrigation, so it's not like a drinking source or anything like that.
It's about a $20 million investment that we're involved. If it's a particularly hot day or when you do it, you're endangering a lot of money.
I think you answered my question. So the other question I had is, you were going through those blue boxes and you said they're 4 or 5 feet deep in the ground. Basically, you're going to have all this asphalt, all this parking, all the water's going to flow into these catch basements. How deep in the ground are all those blue boxes? Like it's 4 and 5 foot deep plastic bins that are X feet in the ground?
Yeah, so they vary because they're all different sizes. The corrugated metal pipes, the detention systems, for example, detention system 1, it's 6.5 foot diameter. So it's at least 6.5 feet into the ground. We typically require minimum 1.5 foot of cover over the top of that. So you're at about 8 feet below finished grade to the bottom of that system. For detention system 2, this is actually located in a fill area, meaning the proposed grade is higher than what exists today. So when the bottom of that system is actually only about 1 foot below existing grade. Because, like Eric mentioned, this corner of the site, we're actually building it up. It's about a 20+ foot wall. So the bottom of the system actually may be above existing grade. So as they fill the site, they'll install that pipe and then fill around it and build up the whole site behind the wall. So it's really only about a 1.5 foot of cover again to the top of that system. So they vary.
And the other thing we noticed on the site walk was all these, I think they were geotech wells that were all around the site, and in the geotech report they show groundwater. You guys say groundwater anywhere from like 7 to 10 feet. And I guess the question is, if you're excavating down to put these in, are you going to get down to where the kind of the high water level is, and then how do you de-water? Like how do you get rid of the water if you hit it when you're excavating?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the stormwater handbook requires minimum 2 feet of separation. If you have less than 4 feet, it requires a mounting analysis. What we provided minimum 4 feet of cover, 4 feet of separation between the seasonal high water table that was established based on those test pits and geotechnical investigations to the bottom of our system. So if you can picture it, seasonal water table, say it's here, we've got 4 feet of separation to the bottom of our system. So we don't anticipate encountering any groundwater during the installation of these systems.
How long ago were those drawn, those tests at
The test pits?
Yeah.
I believe they were done during the initial application.
Yeah,
I can confirm that with you.
April 2019.
Yeah. And you're correct, those wells we did see on the sidewalk, those were related to the geotechnical investigation.
And then there was one well where you guys hit rock at 72 inches. It's kind of like right in the middle of where the northern building is. So I guess my question is, do you envision any blasting that you're going to need to do to, I guess, clear and excavate for those foundations?
To be honest, it's really a geotechnical question. We can find that out for you. I would imagine on most sites we do encounter some bedrock somewhere. So yeah.
And I guess to
And
follow up on that.
I wouldn't think it would require blasting. It may be, chipping away at it.
I think some folks here would probably want to know, so we'll follow up and write
If it was ever blasting, we would definitely do pre-blast surveys and all of that.
Good? Okay. Is the perimeter fence, you're saying you're building up 20 feet, is that continuous? It looks like there's a gap, at least on that current drawing. Is that accurate, or is it going all the way around the back by Ipswich River?
So everywhere where we need fall protection for the walls, everywhere where we have walls, there will be a fence. And the fence will be located just at the top of the wall, right against the wall. Our previous plans didn't illustrate that correctly, but the fence will be right at the top, and there'll actually be a guardrail as well.
And is the wall continuous around the back by the river, or is there that gap?
No, there is a gap here. And that's just due to the fact that there's no need for a wall. We're hitting existing grade at those locations. Or there's enough room to grade it out, just with like a traditional slope.
Okay, and then I think I heard that you're working on maybe reciprocal easements with Teresa's is that accurate? Are they done? You're working on it? What was the status of now reorienting the access that's going to go over?
Yeah, so we're working on just, finalizing that access point, getting through this process, and then once this process concludes, we would start creating those easements and getting those formalized.
Okay, and then does this wall or these new catch basins do anything to the snow removal and storage plan that was originally proposed?
No. The snow storage, where we had shown it previously, was not on those 3-to-1 slopes. We also didn't show any snow storage in those areas just because they all drain towards the resource areas, which is not recommended.
Okay. I'm good for now.
Yeah, sure. I have a bunch of questions, and maybe GM2 had already addressed some of them, so if they did, I apologize. But is there a plan to add any type of stormwater O&M sheet or table, like inspections after a 5-inch storm for year 1, then semi-annually, isolator row, vacuuming frequency, CV sump clean-out triggers, winter sand and salt practices, anything like that? Just
Yes, yep, it's all included in section 2 of our drainage report. There's a O&M log
okay.
that outlines the frequency and the type of inspections.
Perfect. So I have here.
This just relates to like neighborhood screening and landscaping. I assume you're not going to put any like deep-rooted trees or anything like that above the chambers.
Correct. Yeah, the chambers are all located outside of landscaped areas below the pavement.
Perfect.
That's kind of why they have those funky shapes working around those landscaped islands.
Gotcha.
And then as far as snow management, that's all going to be outside of obviously this primary infiltration zones. I assume you'll be doing like post-storm sweeping and vacuuming and hauling off of any sediments from the winter so it doesn't go back into the river.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. So I don't have the snow storage plan with me, but we did highlight areas that would require snow removal being, all the parking lots, sidewalks, and then we showed the hatched areas where we have snow storage.
The last question kind of pertains to the new location of the entrance. I'm assuming, 'cause I didn't see anything on there, it's not like a gated community where people need to fob in or access where traffic might back up. It's just, they can pull up to the building and
That's correct.
visit, okay.
Yeah, we have stop bars, stop signs for vehicles leaving the parking areas, but there's no restricted movements coming from Elm Street into the site.
Thank you.
Regarding the change of that entry point, which is now servicing obviously only Teresa's, has there been any consideration to the effect on traffic when Teresa's has an event? So in other words, you have just standard use at a restaurant now, or maybe they have an event, but there's no large development behind there. So as we enter the holidays and you suddenly find yourself having multiple events for their business purposes versus entry and egress of just the residents themselves. So this isn't as much a question as it is a comment that has a concern for me. And admittedly and respectfully, there is going to be a meeting dedicated to traffic and safety, but just for the record and to note, the dual purpose of that entrance, and maybe it always has been intended, but you're now changing the focus, and I question whether it's a fair question to be given a heads up from. At one time, a business had its own entrance and you had yours, and now it looks like you're going to be sharing one, and that brings a concern to me as a member of this community. But thank you.
Sure, I can just add to that a little bit. The traffic study will take that into account. The trips per day and the traffic counts that are anticipated at that entrance. Today, the majority of the daily use of this restaurant only requires the parking directly in front of the restaurant, whereas those parking spaces that are closer to Elm Street are usually only used during events. And we did look at the local zoning requirements for parking and compared that to the uses that are out there today and confirmed that the parking counts that are required will be provided on that site.
Well, I would believe so. So I'll be interested in seeing that. But it's been mentioned a couple of times in the meeting, and again, I do want to note that there is going to be a meeting. Is it our next? That is going to deal more specifically with traffic and traffic safety in particular. So hope is that by the December 11th meeting, the community will be made better aware of those impacts and changes coming from the change in the access road. Thank you. So,
I got another question.
Oh, please.
So back to this 24-foot wall. So I'm looking around, like I would say like those lights are probably 24 feet off the ground. Like this is a big wall. Is this a normal practice for something of this size? Maybe that's a question for Eric, or is this more of a result of trying to stay out of the river, 100 foot from the river? Like I'm just trying to understand like where'd this wall come from? Like it's huge. And maybe how big is it? Is it 24 feet for like 50 feet and then it tapers down, or are we gonna, because I know like woodcutters nearby and they have this giant retaining wall. I'm trying to like help people understand like what they're gonna be looking at.
That's
Yes.
a real eyesore. That woodcutter wall is right behind our house. We had no knowledge when they put that in. On the plan, it looks like it's nothing. It's a real eyesore. So if anybody can see that, I would object to that strongly.
okay, let's give the
Yeah,
applicant a chance to address it. Thank you.
So the 24-foot wall height is not the height of the wall throughout. it's really the highest point at the southwest corner here, the cursor is, and then it tapers up from there. And I will say we've done bigger walls, so this is not out of the question. It's, you know, it's a very, I wouldn't say it's standard. If we can avoid doing walls, we will. The challenge on this site, there's resource areas that we cannot disturb.
And I think that's something that's important for folks to understand, is like one of the drawbacks of staying away from the river is a wall like this, right? So, and I guess my other question is this in the operations plan in terms of inspecting that wall? Like how do we know in 20 years the wall's still going to be good? Everything back.
So the O&M plan that we provided is really for stormwater. As far as O&M on the walls themselves, it kind of gets into property management and you know, structural engineering if they need to set up regular visits to inspect it.
Eric, to that point, so they're putting up this wall mostly for state stormwater purposes and runoff. Might not seem like a fair question, and if it isn't, by all means, defer. But having seen multiple sites, do you have any thoughts on that? In particular, what Mr. Martin raised, which is, you know, what's it going to look like? What's the effect going to be in 10 years? And in that, and to add on to that, the deterioration of the wall. What, you know, the materials matter. Do these, or are we all just subject in slave, if you will, to state and or federal guidelines?
Those are all good questions. Can anybody hear me from here? I can get up there. Those are all good questions, and I think that they can be answered. My record wall is 17 feet, so they're done. They are done all around. And these are engineered walls. I imagine they're going to hire probably a wall supplier, okay, who specializes in a particular wall. I would think these are the big block walls that you're talking about, not necessarily what you might see in someone's front yard landscaping. They're engineered walls. They're designed for the particular location. They're designed based on the geotech requirements. They are stabilized. They are stacked walls, but they are stabilized with geogrids. There are material requirements and drainage requirements behind the walls. So these walls are, they're used frequently. You know, there are alternatives, okay? There's alternatives, to be other types of walls. So there's a reinforced concrete wall, which I don't think would look, I think would look worse probably in that case. Walls like this could also be, I've used tint in these walls, so they don't look like bright white concrete, okay? I think there's a whole palette of colors that can be introduced, instead of manufacturing the walls. And there could be screening in front of the walls. There could be some plantings that help the masking. Maybe even some, I'm not a landscape architect, but I could see maybe some vines growing up on here or some trees planted beyond the total slope of the wall that grow fast. But they are used, and I guess one question would be the vantage point of anybody. There are woods, okay, that exist beyond that wall location. I believe there's existing woods. Okay, will help the masking as well. But I think if they're designed well and planned well, then it's routine.
What if they're not? What if the impact over time turns out to be detrimental to the environment, in particular, all due respect to the abutters, but what is the remedy that you know of? If you don't, that's fine.
I don't.
Okay, thank you.
I guess you could compare it to the structures themselves. Right? What if they failed anywhere? Right? I think if you follow proper design procedures, checks throughout the process, then that can certainly be mitigated. Walls typically have a factor of safety built into their design as well. And maybe that's a question that can be answered by the applicant. It could be 2.5 factor of safety. So, all good questions.
Thank you. Appreciate the info.
Yeah, I can just add to that. You know, these are fill walls, meaning, like Eric explained, they're holding up our site, they're holding up, you know, our development. And so if they were to fail, the first thing or person or entity that they are going to impact is us. And we have a financial interest to, you know, maintain those walls and ensure that they don't fail. And again, if and when they ever did, it's going to impact us, not in a butter.
Would it be unreasonable to ask for like an inspection every certain number of years? Like, and maybe that's an error question. Like, is that something that we could create a condition for?
Perhaps that may be a good question for the building inspector as well, to see if there's precedence for similar requirements.
Any other thoughts or questions from the board for the applicant? Okay, thank you. With that being the case, I'd like to open it up to the community. There's a live microphone. Is that at the podium? If you might, in order, as you might want to. Oh yeah, thank you. There's also a sign-in sheet at the podium if you, so that we want to have a record of those who ask questions. Much or just? Okay. Sure, so thank you. So members of the community, as you ask a question or deliver a comment, if you could first begin with your name and where you live in North Reading or otherwise, and respectfully, for the sake of maintenance of the efficiency of the meeting, if somebody asks a question that you believe answers yours, it's fine to almost get up and say "me too" on that, but we're trying to keep the evening productive. So thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm Christine McNeil. I live at 4 Lynn Street. I've got a couple of questions as relates to actually the image that's on there right now and this 20-something foot retaining wall. You talked a lot about the stormwater and what it's going to do with the groundwater and how your retaining walls are protecting, you know, everything. What happens, or what is the impact of the water in those storage tanks to my property, which is right on the other side of that 20-something foot retaining wall? What is that going to do? My property sits very low. How is that going to affect the groundwater and therefore my septic system on my site? that is one question, one really big concern. A second concern would be the fact that you just said tonight that it's a 27-foot retaining wall. There's not a lot of space on my property anyway, so this is actually very, very close, not just to my property line, but to my actual house. So a 27-foot retaining wall where there used to be some trees is rather concerning. I don't want to look at a retaining wall. I would like to make sure that there is some accommodation for what it looks like, not to the people on your site, because they're not going to see the wall. What's the impact? What is it going to look like for those of us directly having to look at it, right? You just said when or if that wall fails, it would affect your site. I fail to see how a 27-foot retaining wall, which isn't going to fall in towards your site or let anything on your go into your site, doesn't have an adverse impact to those properties directly abutting. So what kind of landscaping, what kind of, that's a huge land path for wildlife. What kind of impact is that going to have? There's a lot of really drastic concerns that don't feel like that they're being looked at from anywhere outside of the property line. Thank you.
Don Putney, 20 Riverside Drive. In the presentation regarding the flow of water and NOAA's new requirements because of the increase in rainflow, I noted that you stated that there would be an increase in the volume and capacity that you could contain, but it also will be slowed down. My concern from that statement is now, current days, we're seeing a lot of flash flooding. The rate of rain in a time period is increased to the point where it's difficult to be handled. What have you done to address this particular issue, number one? And my second thing is with regard to Eric's statement on the fact that the Board of Health deals with the septic system. Are they using, I'm not knowledgeable, this is everybody, I'm not knowledgeable of it. Are they using a consultant on that? My concerns in all of this has to do with a river that feeds 300,000 or more people their fresh water. And if something by accident happens, the answer is who's going to say, oops, and we're sorry to you 300,000 people. Also, we had an example in town of a problem in a system at Martin's Landing. It's not a major problem, but it does represent that maintenance, if not handled appropriately, can cause problems. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nicholas Wolsing from Uruguay. I have a question for the developer team and a comment for the board. First off, a question for the developers. You talk about having to move the golf course irrigation line, and you're going to snake it around between the wetlands and the retaining wall. My question is, what materials will you be utilizing in this new built line? PVC, commonly used in golf course irrigation, has a very finite lifespan. This looks like an area that's going to be, put it bluntly, nearly impossible to maintain. HDPE is proving to be a much better option in golf course irrigation. Is that being considered? What are you guys going to be doing so that there's no issues down the line with the golf course irrigation? As it's been stated, irrigation for golf courses are a vital investment, and I have concerns with regard to that. Do you guys have an answer for that? What materials?
No, we don't know this time.
Don't know.
We would coordinate that with the golf course. Probably defer to whatever materials are already installed, but it's worth the conversation.
And no golf courses are putting in PVC anymore. So that's the question. And it's just probably PVC? developers aren't doing that, so that's all.
It's a small section too that we're relocating. The majority of the existing infrastructure is going to remain in place. And as far as access goes, it currently runs below the stream, which we're not touching. So it's currently difficult to access. And what we're doing is providing an open area below the wall to access it. So I would say where we're relocating is easier to access than where it is today.
Secondly, a comment for the ZBA board. The developers proposed a 24-foot retaining wall. I'd like to remind ourselves that we're in a 35-foot residential zoning. So a 24-foot wall, mere feet from a property line, that indicates that the scope of this project does not fit this plot of land. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dorina Helfrich. I live at 8 Lynn Street.
You gotta talk louder.
Dorina Helfrich, 8 Lynn Street. I reside at, as a butter directly next door to the property that's being proposed. I have many concerns. There's a wealth of information that was just uploaded online. I think as of October, there's a vast amount. I think all of you mentioned things that were 300 pages wide. Can everybody hear me? Hi.
Hey.
I just think it's important for the community to know a lot of information is presented online, and it's as a resident to navigate through all the information that's there, even as people who this is your wheelhouse. I'm not in the industry, it's new to me. Is it working now? How's that? Better? So I have a lot of questions pertaining to this as far as the stormwater and the groundwater levels and how it's going to impact us as abutters. The Mass DEP submitted a hydrology study that I don't know that a lot of people are aware. I apologize to everybody for your loss of hearing. I think it's important for the community to know there's a ton of information online. It's impossible for someone who's a working person. This is not my full job to go through it. So I really am counting on the board and the community to come. I thought I would come here today and hear a proposal that felt safe and honest. And what I feel is happening is there's a lot of omissions, there's a lot of inaccurate data, there's a lot of changing data that continues to happen throughout this project. So a lot of things are changing in the last minutes, and then things are happening. And now we're on this strict timeline without a lot of time to go through all of the vast amount of changes and things that are happening. As far as the groundwater level goes, it's we've talked about it, there's a high water table there. So with the stormwater, I have serious concerns because stormwater can cause contaminants to go into my drinking well. And I feel like a broken record with saying this. But the Mass DEP had comments on the site about how the groundwater level is going to be raised at my drinking water level and how it could cause a septic failure. And so it's wild to me that I have to find this out for myself by going online to see this information there with my address. And so the design flow shows a 0.4-foot rise in the groundwater to both 4 and 8 Lynn Street. And the developer's submission omitted critical details about the abutting septic system and no construction details. And because of these omissions, it's not possible to evaluate whether the projected rise in groundwater could cause failure of the abutting Title V systems. The developer's claim of no adverse impact is unsubstantiated. And as an abutter whose septic system and drinking water well depend on stable groundwater conditions, these are unresolved and the questions keep remaining. They directly threaten the health, safety, and functionality of our living conditions. And what protective measures are being proposed? What is the distance between all of these stormwater systems and my well? What is the long-term maintenance plan? Where will the monitoring wells be located? So according to Mass DEP, they have to install 3 monitoring wells, and one of them is going to be insufficient because they can't locate it in the upgradient area and where my well will be. So it's concerning that contaminants from, they're removing all of the vegetation. I traveled your site in Billerica. I went there to see the development. They've removed all trees. There's the abutters and there's their development in the other locations. I am going to be faced with no vegetation to separate my home, a higher water table, a 20-foot wall. It feels to me like these issues are really pressing, and it's being allowed to happen. We felt the weight of this project for years now, and I just feel like, given the information I have, I think we deserve accurate information that's timely, that we can review. The traffic studies suggested there's 1,000 cars coming in and out of the area. I feel like that's minimizing or making it minimal to what it actually will be, given the amount of bedrooms. There's considerable aspects, and there's so many, it's overwhelming. So that's basically my biggest concerns right now, is that there's a plan in place to continue to monitor the stormwater system as well, because that is in addition going to impact my land.
Hi, my name's Alan Helfrich, 8 Lynn Street. I have a couple of questions. I heard in previous meetings that this site is 13 acres. Am I correct on that? This is for the develop team. They should know the answer to that question.
How is it relevant? What's the bigger question?
Well, the bigger question is, the property's 13 acres. How many of those acres are wetlands? 8, 9, and then you put the 100-foot setback from that? What is it? Like?
It definitely minimizes it. Okay.
So this site is like what, like 5, 6 acres?
The amount of land we're buying is what the amount of land we're buying. The amount of usable land is less, yeah.
The amount of land you're buying is 13, but the amount, this site is like 6 acres, right? So you're trying to put all this stuff in 6 acres.
Yes.
It's not the right spot for it. It ain't gonna work. And then, whose bright idea was to put like the stormwater by the Ipswich River so it runs into the Ipswich River? You know that's people's drinking water, right?
So I will add, the existing site today, which makes up about 50% of the impervious area that's out there after this development comes in, all of the existing site currently runs into the Ipswich River, completely unmitigated, completely untreated.
Yeah, but there's no hardscape there, so it actually just absorbs into the ground.
There's a parking lot. It's a giant parking lot.
With Teresa's?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so you're doubling that.
Yes, and we're treating it. We're capturing it, we'll infiltrate it. I'm saying today, and even after this development comes in, the entire existing site that's out there, the Teresa's parking lot, that all flows unmitigated to the Ipswich River. Untreated.
It seems pretty far away from the Ipswich River.
We're connecting to the same location. All our discharges go to the same.
You're in the back where there's a freshwater culvert where you put in the rainwater.
All of our discharges go to that stream that runs up into the center of the property.
That goes into the Ipswich River.
Correct.
And then on top of this, you're putting a sewage treatment plant, right? on this site?
I won't comment on the treatment plan, it's not my scope.
Not your scope. You're not building it?
The civil is not for that, but you're correct, through the Mass DEP, we are going to be building a package street.
And I just have a quick question about that. You have 200 units, right? And then in that 200 units, you have 200 master bedrooms, right? Which brings the number up to, I don't know, right around 540 people that could be there. And then you guys came up with some sort of study that 30 kids, new kids would be entering the school. I just wonder where that study came from.
From other properties in North Reading.
From other properties in North Reading?
Other rental properties.
Like the 50+ ones?
No, because they don't really pay a lot of kids.
Because you guys have 140 potential kid bedrooms going in there. Numbers don't lie. 200 of them are master bedrooms.
200 units.
200 units, yep, and 340 bedrooms. So you do the math. The math says 140 potential kid bedrooms. How do you come up with only 40 might go there?
Because that, well, how children come into the households, how many people live in a unit, it's different on every property. What we found is that many of our residents are empty nesters or young couples, sometimes with kids, and that the generation is generally in line with what it seems to be other properties in North Reading have created for childhood impact.
I just think 40 is a very, very low number. Just like the 1,000 cars coming in and out, there's no place to walk. There's no place, actually you can't walk anywhere. So if you want to do something, you have to drive from this property.
I would defer to the traffic engineers and the peer reviews to really, they can opine on that and give good information, and I think they have good information that kind of confirms these assumptions.
I think that's another minimum, like bare minimum, just like the bare minimum of 300 parking spaces for 540 people that could potentially live there. I just don't think this site is correct. And just as a favor, next time you come, can you put Lynn Street on the map, just so everyone can know how badly you're screwing us?
All due respect.
Sorry.
There are lines, and while we are trying to support a public discourse, and I appreciate both the members of the community that have come out tonight, but also the opportunity, the decision by, in this case, the developers team to talk directly to the community. Just as an aside, it's hard for me to stand in your shoes, so to ask a specific question, but at the same time, there's an interest in maintaining the focus of the conversation.
I'm going to sit down now and...
That's again, don't take, I'm just trying to address this not only to this gathering tonight, but at any of our meetings. We try to keep it focused, and I appreciate you're part of this community, you're impacted by, as is everybody, what goes on, sometimes more so than others. We've had a chance to gather your questions as well, and in the past situations at all our meetings, whether it's this applicant or others, they've given the chance on continuations to address those concerns. I have every expectation and hope that they will. But again, we do want to keep this conversation focused on, again, the engineering of the development.
I just got just one last thing. It would be nice, they did a study from every street but Lynn Street. I would like to see it on a map so everyone could see how close this actually is to my house with 20-foot walls. Thank you for your time.
gentleman in the vest to identify himself, his name and
Yeah,
position?
Mark Duransky, Trammell Crow Residential. Sorry.
Could you say that one more time?
Mark Duransky, Trammell Crow Residential.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Thank you for the catch.
Hi, I'm Laura Tempesta. I live on Riverside Drive, and I'll keep this very brief. I think it's hard as residents that live slightly on a lower elevation, all the neighborhoods that are lower than this, that already have water running down. It's just very difficult to see with all these details how any of this will make anything better. If we can only see all the ways that this project on this property will make everything worse. So that's all. I just wanted, that's kind of the feeling that we all have about this, I think.
Thank you. Any other comments or
Yes.
questions from the community? By all means, thank you.
My name's Kathy Stewart. I can't even stand there because I'm so short. My name's Kathy Stewart. I live at 13 Riverside Drive. In reference to the question that Laura just asked, I understand clearly from a business perspective that it's in your best interest to do this project and to have it with 24-foot walls. I think it's very unfortunate that consideration was not given to the people that live in the community. It's not going to enhance our community. It's going to be a detriment to our community. And maybe this is a proper and professional way of putting it. I find it very sad that greed trips everything else. And it just makes me very, very sad. And I'm very disappointed. That's it. Thank you.
Noting that, thank you. Is there any other input, thoughts, comments, questions from the community?
I'm just wondering, Lauren Darden, I'm trying to transcript. Is there going to be an opportunity to see an actual picture with the elevation of the wall so that people, because we're just looking at it on a flat piece of paper, but I haven't seen any drawings that actually shows the elevation and or any actual discussion of how long the wall is and what is the footage between the back of the wall and the nearest residential property, so that you can get a visual of what they're going to look at when they walk out their back door, and what is it going to look like to people who live there. Are they going to be like in a walled fortress in that area? Because how close is the building and the parking area and whatever area they have to circulate throughout the property? How is that going to be affected by the presence of these walls?
Eric, your work with peer review, developed and submitted applications. Have you ever seen a developer provide such landscape drawings, representation?
Perspectives.
Perspectives, thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
And just sometimes a development provides shadow studies because there's concerns about the building going in, how it may impact adjacent properties. I've also seen, I'm not suggesting this is the best thing to do, but in these instances, I've seen you float balloons to the appropriate elevation. Okay, you have to figure it out, and I've never done it personally, but you can float a series of balloons to get a perspective of how the top of that wall might look from a particular vantage point. So there are ways. There are ways. I think that methods that can be used to help people understand this a little
for my own information, what was the decision? I might have missed it, I apologize. Was the decision on the height of that wall determined, and is there a trade-off of changing that determination?
No, so the reason for the wall, nobody likes building a tall wall. You know, it's expensive. But there's constraints. So one constraint being the resource area. We're limited to how close we can work near that resource. The other constraint is the existing elevations of the site, entrance, and accessibility throughout the proposed development. So we're kind of held to the existing grades that are out there today, up near the entrance, maintaining accessibility throughout the site, which limits you how steep of a grade you can introduce to lower the height of that wall. And then also how close you can work towards the resource area. So with those two constraints, that's kind of where we landed with that height of the wall.
I think just for clarity, you stated it before, the height of the wall, max height is 24, 25 feet. But I just pictured gradually tapering off down to 4 or 5 feet, and you'll provide some plans, some juncture that shows it's maybe 25 feet for 12-foot section, 14-foot section, and then it drops down.
Yeah, we actually have, on our grading and drainage plan, there's wall heights
Shows that.
along the whole length of the wall, where it shows top and bottom of the wall.
And I think we're going to be reviewing architectural in January, it sounds like. Can you guys provide a rendering by that date of the wall so people on Lynn Street can see what they're going to look at?
Yeah, in fact, subject to a meeting I had with Mrs. Helfrich, we've already prepared drawings for views from 8 and from 4 Lane. I knocked on Ms. Neal's door, I wasn't able to speak to, but the intent was to try and present these, but we haven't had that opportunity yet, so that will be available for the January. Yes.
Thank you.
I had a follow-up, I guess, procedural question. So Eric's firm submitted comments on November 6th, and it sounded like you guys are preparing responses to go back, and I think you mentioned next week. Is there a way that we can get these questions asked tonight kind of incorporated in, like if we put them in writing, to get them incorporated into that response letter, or can there be a second response letter? I just want to make sure that everything here tonight is answered.
We'll provide a separate response letter that goes through questions that were asked tonight. Some of them may well be addressed in the response to comments, but we can call that out a separate response document that we'll submit.
And I think there's merit in keeping them particular to the time asked as well, both for the benefit of the community as well as, in this case, the responding applicant, because it will focus. And it will, even in, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, if it gets repeated, so be it, but better to have addressed it in full and specifically. Again, to the members of the community that came out tonight, and by the way, just as I always try to mention in all our meetings, we very much appreciate everybody's time in taking a moment. You know, this is, developments in the moment are going to last for a lot longer than the moment, so it is important to try to have a discourse on these matters. If anything has been said since you might have asked a question, if you do want to follow up, this is the last opportunity. I see no more real questions coming, I believe. I could be premature in my supposition there. But again, once we close the hearing for tonight, the next one will be conducted at our next meeting. So as we very much approach the 8 o'clock hour, is there anything further from the community before we move on? Okay, thank you. Comments from the board? Anything last from the applicant?
No, we'll look forward to presenting traffic at our next meeting.
Eric, we started with you. Any thoughts before we conclude? Julie, bring the circle.
Well, just from my own perspective, this is the process, and I appreciate the questions from the community. My first chance to be engaged, and I've taken notes. I believe that we'll get some access to the video. I'll share it all with other team members at GM2, and we'll be prepared to offer some response to the camp.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Just making a note on the plan in the
Yeah, northeast corner, there's a notation, fill wall, max height plus or minus 13.5.
so then is that
That's
above?
the same.
Is that above?
Is that the same wall? It's pointing,
I think the southwest wall is the tallest wall. The north, or the southeast wall, again, it's around like 13 feet.
For the record, Kathy's a member of the community as well. She resides in North Reading. And forgot more about what he was over the weekend. Okay. With that, last, Attorney Pucci, any thoughts?
You need to formally vote to continue with the date certain.
Yes, thank you. Hearing no other further input from the community for this evening, I'd like to make a motion to continue the public hearing matter with regard to the application for 20 Elm Street, North Reading, Massachusetts. With that continuation to be until December 11, 2025, once again here at the Learning Lab at North Reading High School. Can I get a second?
Brendan Riley, second.
Thank you. In attendance to that, a 6 o'clock meeting start time. All in favor of the continuation?
Brendan Riley, aye.
Aye.
Bob Green, aye. With that, thank you. We will, the matter is now continued until December 11th, 2025.